We'll see it next after this.
Oh, okay.
Phloem.
Okay, it's on the next slide.
Yeah. So this is xylem, is one type, and phloem is the other kind. Xylem, which is for transport of water and minerals from roots to the leaves, and leaf are the organs of the plants through which the water evaporates. That process is called transpiration. So when water leaves, it is the same water that is collected from the root system. So it is conducted all the way to the top of the plant. No matter how tall plant is, it's usually in a single column. So absorption to its evaporation at the end is done through these cells, which are part of the xylem. Xylem is made of two main types of cells, even though they have multiple cells, but there are two main types of cells in them. Tracheids and vessel elements are the two types of cells. Tracheids are long and tapered cells, and vessel cells are much longer and have perforations in them. So remember, the function is to conduct water, to carry water from the root system all the way to the shoot system, to the leaves. So they are in the form of tiny tubes that are present inside the trunk and inside the leaf and inside different branches of the plants as well. And they are a tiny tube that are connected to each other, because the purpose is to conduct things, to carry things inside the plant. So these tracheids have tiny gaps or walls that actually help them to cross the water from one to the other, and these vessels have perforations, tiny holes in them that help to carry those nutrients as well as water inside the plant. Structurally, this is how they look like. This is here, these are tracheids here. They are tube-like, long cylindrical cells. And these cells are produced from these parenchymal cells. So these parenchymal cells, as I mentioned, those have ability to divide and produce other types of cells. They have the ability to produce cells that can be differentiated. So these cells produce these two types of cells. So these are the vessel cells. These are the tracheids. So they're a little bit different. They are much thicker, larger, longer cells, and then they are connected to each other through those tiny perforations that are present in between, which are shown here. So kind of plates that separate them away from each other also have holes or perforations in them that help to carry things through those cells. In case of tracheids, they also have very similar mechanism where they have tiny pits on the wall, inside the walls, that help them to conduct fluids through those cells. So it is carrying fluids from the bottom through the root system and continues to conduct them through these, and they have these perforations that are present either between the cells or in the walls, and the function of all that is to carry things towards the top. They are so small that the movement of water through them is done through capillary action. Capillary action is that water has the ability to, water has cohesion. So, did we talk about that? Cohesion and adhesion? So these are the two properties of water, cohesion and adhesion. So I think that was chapter number 2 of this book. So adhesion and cohesion are two properties of water. So water actually, water molecules, they adhere to each other. They stick with each other. So that's within the water molecules, between water molecules. And cohesion is they actually attach to the surfaces. So water molecules will attach. If you put water in here in small, tiny tube, water will attach to the wall and continue to climb up. So when it is moving from the root system to those leaves, where it is evaporating from the bottom of these leaves through stomata, so it makes a single column through the trunk, through the branches, through the leaf, and then it is evaporated. And this evaporation here basically is the pulling power. So it pulls it up as there is void that is created by the release of this water here. It continues to pull more water as long as it is available in the soil in which the plant is embedded. So it kind of pulls that. And the way it actually conducts itself is because of these two properties. Because water molecules attach to each other, that's how it becomes liquid. And then they also stick to the surfaces because of the charge on oxygen. More positive and negative charge on the molecule of water helps them to attach to the surfaces and be pulled up. And the pulling power comes from this process, which is called transpiration process. Transpiration helps water to be pulled up because of the release of water here at the top. And it is done in these two types of cells. Both of those are involved in conducting the fluid inside the plants. The second type of tissue, the second type of vascular tissue is phloem. Phloem also consists of several different types of cells, and there are two cells generally that are used to describe the function of the phloem as well. And those are these cells called sieve-tube members or sieve-tube cells, and others are called companion cells. I think that's on the next slide. Okay, it's not. Those are shown here. So sieve-tube cells are also produced by these parenchymal cells, which are specific for phloem. So those are called phloem parenchyma cells. And these are the cells that give rise to these two types of phloem cells, which are called sieve-tube member and companion cells. So their structure is similar. So they are just tube-like structures. They are tube-like cells that help to conduct and carry different types of chemicals that are produced inside the plant and help them to be distributed within the plants. Going back here. So their role is written here. They transport sucrose and all other types of organic molecules from leaves to the roots. So their route is opposite to the route of the xylem cells. Xylems carry things from the root to the shoot, to the leaves, and phloem cells transport things in the opposite direction. They take carbohydrates and other organic molecules that are produced in the leaves of the plant and carry them back in the trunk and to the root system. So why do they carry things back to the root system? What is the purpose of that?
Nutrition.
For nutrition, to provide nutrients to all the cells, because even the root cells are living cells, and those cells need carbohydrates to survive. And another purpose of that is storage. So when the tubers, for example in tubers, carbohydrates are stored. When we eat potatoes, what are potatoes made of? Starch, right? So starch, which is produced through photosynthesis, is stored in the root system. So in the form of those big tubers. Same thing in case of sweet potatoes. Same thing in case of other types of like tubers. What else?
Carrots.
Carrots, that's right. Radishes, carrots, ginger, turmeric. What else?
Rutabaga.
Yeah, that's right. So all the members of the brassica family, all the mustards.
Waxer.
So,
Sorry.
so yeah, there are many examples of those. Then also, when things are carried back from the photosynthese, from the leaves, those are carried to the fruit system also. So they are carried to the fruits. This is another place where storage takes place. Fruits are full of starch molecules, and eventually they are changed into carbohydrates. For example, in case of bananas, bananas when they are green, when they are unripe, they are full of starch molecules, not very tasty at all. So if you have ever taken actually any bite of an unripe banana, it's not really very sweet, not very pleasant to eat. So after it ripens, it changes the starch molecules into sugars, which are sweet sugars like fructose and glucose. So those are sweet sugars. Starches are not sweet. That's why all the grains are not sweet. When we eat rice or when we eat wheat and things like that, those are not sweet because they are made of starch. So starch has to be broken down into its monosaccharides. These are monosaccharides, these are polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are not sweet, and monosaccharides are sweet. And plants know how to actually change them, how to convert those back and forth. All right, so any questions? Any questions on what we covered so far? So what we have talked about so far, what have we talked about so far? Too many confusing ideas.
Different types of tissues.
Yes.
You said something about the stomata, you didn't really catch what you said, and same thing for the cork combine.
Cork cambium.
Cork combine.
Cork cambium is actually a layer. Cambium is a layer of living cells. So on the outside, if you actually take a look at that tree over there, the trunk of the tree is made of very tough material on the outside. The bark or the cork of the tree is made of pretty much all the dead cells on the outside. But if you peel that, you will actually see very soft material. Have you ever done that? Have you ever peeled bark of a tree? So you actually see it's very soft, and it is easy to peel it like that. Not actually on the very old trees, but the smaller trees. If you actually are able to peel the bark of the tree, you will see actually a very soft layer of the cells. That is the cambium. That is the living cells that actually make the part which becomes very thick on the outside and very softer cells inside. And it is easily separable because it is actively dividing cells. Then everybody got the concept of meristem or meristematic cells. So those are stem cells of the plants. So they are not called stem cells, but they are called apical meristem or meristem cells. Those are undifferentiated cells that can be differentiated to make different types of plant cells. So what else did we have talked about so far? 3 types of the tissues. There are 3 types of the tissues in plants.
Tissue.
The 3 main types of the tissue are
Epidermal, ground tissue.
those are epidermal,
Epidermal, ground tissue, vascular.
ground tissue, and vascular. Those are the 3 main types of tissue that are found in all plants. And within those, there are different types of cells that make those tissues. So the concept of tissue is it's a bunch of cells, more than one cell, that does the same function. That has the definition of tissue is cells that are structurally and functionally same or similar. That is the definition of a tissue. Meaning they are, kind of a bunch of cells that are the same. So number of cells that are the same. Structurally and functionally the same type of cells are tissues. So when we talk about vascular tissue, it means the same. So if you have cells which are tracheid cells, or if you have those companion cells, they are just the same cells but just larger in numbers. In case of ground tissue is the bulk that makes the mass. Most of the ground material is made of those cells. And epidermal cells are the ones which are present to protect on the outside of the cells. Those are called epidermal cells because those are the skin of the plants. And skin can be modified for the advantage of the plants. That surface can be increased by having those root hair, or surface can be protected with the wax to kind of protect water loss from the plants as well.
Would you say the vascular cambium is the same as the court cambium, just for trees?
Vascular cambium, that is actually the separation of the vascular system. We'll talk about those when we talk about the structure of the stem. So it is, vascular cambium is actually the separation of the two vascular cells, the two types of vascular cells. Okay, so different organs of the flowering plants. The plants are made of roots and shoots and trunk. These are the three main types of organs. And then the fourth one are the flowers. Flowers which are considered part of the shoot system. So roots underground and shoot system above ground. So could there be any exceptions to that rule, that roots are always inside the ground? Could there be some roots in the air?
Yeah.
Have you seen
Water.
any?
Yeah.
Cypress trees.
Yes, that's right. So there could be actually several examples of root system being on the outside and not underground always. Adventitious roots are actually roots that are produced from the shoots. Then there are aerial roots also. If you have seen ivy growing on the side of the walls, it actually produces those aerial roots and then actually climbs the trees and on the rocks based on those aerial roots. Then cypress tree, the example that you gave, has those structures also that can actually produce some aerial roots as well. So those are not real roots, those are modifications of, usually those are modifications of either the root system or the shoot of the plant. So there are vegetative organs, and then there are reproductive organs. Reproductive organs are flowers and seeds and fruits that contain them, and vegetative organs are roots, stems, and leaves. So roots, stems, and leaves are the vegetative part of the plant. So vegetative parts are usually related to the growth and nutrition, and reproductive parts of the plant are for kind of their own survival, for producing those parts that they can continue to be propagated from, like seeds and fruits. Fruits are usually around the seeds, which are the protecting organs of their embryos. So all fruits have some seeds in them, and seeds are those structures that carry the embryo, which is their babies. So in a way, we actually eat their babies. When we eat fruits and seeds, we are eating their babies. And actually, plants don't produce those things for you. They are not that nice. They are producing all the carbohydrates to protect and give that nutrient to the embryo, which is contained inside the seed. So on the side of the seeds are those cotyledons that you are quite familiar with, hopefully by now. So those cotyledons are made of carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates, like starch molecules, are there to provide nutrients to this embryo. Whenever that embryo finds the suitable environment of temperature and water, then this embryo starts to germinate. In order to provide that initial input of nutrients that is needed in the initial stages of the plant growth, this is stored here in the cotyledons of the leaves, cotyledons of the seeds. And usually these seeds are present in the inside of something much bigger. So in case of peaches, they have these very hard stone which is around the seed, and if you ever actually open that seed, you will see these type of structure there as well. It's a eudicot, so you will see actually two cotyledons and a tiny small baby inside, like this one as well. So this fruit is produced in such a way where it stores all those carbohydrates here so that people can eat or animals can eat and carry this seed somewhere else for its propagation. So it is actually, it's very smart in that regard. It is alluring people towards, or animals towards itself with its color, with its taste, so that they can help this plant to propagate. Okay, so these parts of the plant, so in this plant here, this imaginary plant, this is kind of, this plant, which is a succulent plant, shows the root system underground and also shows where different growth patterns are, where the different growth areas are. For example, it is making a side shoot, and where it makes this side shoot is called a node. So node is a small bud. So in this case, this is another node. This is another node. And these are all nodes. These are areas where meristematic part of the plant or meristematic cells are present here. So there are meristematic cells here and here, 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 and then this is the apical meristem, which is on the apex of the plant. So these are also meristematic tissues. So they have the ability to give rise new growth that can emerge from here. The area in between these two nodes is called internode. So the space, the distance between two nodes is called internode. And then the growth can take place from all of these nodes. In case of plants, this is in case of the leaf. There are three parts of the leaf. It has this blade, which is the flat area, or in case of needles, in case of pines, that blade is very small. It is in the form of a reed, like grass reeds. So, but it is very reduced in that case. Then it has some vasculature, or it has that veins inside. Veins are part of the vascular system, and most of the leaf is made of the ground tissue. So, and then it has several of these tiny veins that are running through it, but it has a main vein that runs through it. If this is the leaf, then it has this main midrib or main vein which runs through it, and then it has several branches that are further divided inside. So it is for distribution of the nutrients as well as for carrying the products that are made inside the leaf. Below ground, generally, the root system is in a very similar fashion, even though it grows opposite to the direction of the growth of the shoot system. So shoots grow away from gravity, against the gravity, and roots actually grow towards the gravity. So they continue to grow deeper inside. It's probably some sort of a mechanism that the early plants developed through evolution, because they could find actually more nutrients as they go deeper inside the soil, because their food is different types of minerals, sodium, like nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, and other types of minerals. So those are easily available inside the soil. So that's the mechanism they probably adapted through evolution by existing many million years ago or so. Roots also have this branching pattern. They actually do branch. The main branch is called the primary root. So this is the primary root, but it also makes these secondary roots as well, and then the tertiary roots, and then they continue to divide to become very, very fine type of root system, very fibrous type of root system, because they divide repeatedly. So, but it is given